Hello, class, and welcome to section 2.4, linear functions and slope. This is part 1. So when it comes to our functions, we can create a scatter plot to display the data when we have a whole bunch of ordered pairs. A line of best fit, also known as a regression line, models the data and helps us make predictions. Functions that form straight lines are also called linear functions, which are indeed used by this line of best fit. You can see an example here on the right, literacy and child mortality. This is the percent of adult females who are literate versus the under 5 mortality per 1,000. And we could see this equation here. Y is equal to negative 2.39 times x plus 254.47. So we could rewrite these linear expressions, right? We could add 2.39x to both sides, so we can, right, this says 2.39x plus y is equal to 254.47. We could also then multiply by 100 here at the end, so that way we don't have these decimals. And when I say multiply by 100, I mean multiply everything by 100, not just the x. So this would make 239 times x plus 10y is equal to 25,447. So this would be in the equation of the form ax plus by is equal to c, this being that standard form of the equation of a line. So graphing in said standard form, quickest way is to use the intercepts, right? X-intercept is when y is 0, so x would be c divided by a. Y-intercept is when x is 0, y would be c divided by b. An example here on the bottom, the equation from the last slide, we could find the x-intercept to be 106.47 and the y-intercept to be 254.47. So when you have an equation in standard form, in order to graph it, that being in that ax plus by is equal to c format, we would first find the x-intercept, find the y-intercept, find some checkpoint, which would be a third point to use, and graph the 3 points and draw a line. So for example, 2x plus 3y is equal to 6. So to find the x-intercept first, that would be 2x is equal to 6. So x would be 3 when we divide by 2. So x-intercept would be at 3, 0. And then to find the y-intercept, that would be 3y is equal to 6. Dividing by 3, and we would get a y value here of 2. So we would have a point of 0, 2 for that y-intercept. And then we could find some other point here to help us with this. Why don't we put in a value of, let's do 1. If we put 1 in for x, that'd be 2 times 1 plus 3y is equal to 6. So we have 2 plus 3y is equal to 6. We could subtract over that 2 and get 3y is equal to 4, which means y is 4/3. So the point 1, 4/3 is yet another point. So graphing that on here, we have an x-intercept at 3, 0. Y-intercept at 0, 2. And at 1 4/3, that would be about there-ish. And I just realized the reason why this looks off is because I didn't put the x point in the correct location. Excuse me. X-intercept is 3, 0. That'll be right there. So the graph of that connecting it with a straight line, something like this. Only, of course, straighter than what I just drew. But something like that would be the answer to that. So slope compares the vertical change, the rise, to the horizontal change or the run. So this is the change in y divided by the change in x, rise over run. Y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, where x2 minus x1 cannot be 0. Whichever point is considered the first or the second point doesn't particularly matter in terms of the calculation, just whatever your preference is. Here we have a few possibilities for the slope. So positive slope, line rises from left to right and has a slope greater than 0. Negative slope falls from left to right. The slope is less than 0. Zero slope, the slope is 0, and the line is horizontal. Undefined slope, line is vertical, and a slope is undefined due to that division by 0. So, for example, we want to find the slope of the line passing through the points 8, 2, and 9, 8, then indicate whether the line is, well, whether the line through the points rises, falls, is horizontal, or is vertical. So let's call 8, 2 our first point, and 9, 8 our second. So based on that slope formula, we would have 8 minus 2 divided by 9 minus 8. This would give us 6 divided by 1, a slope of 6, which is indeed greater than 0. So because of that, the line is going to rise from left to right. Line rises from left to right. The slope-intercept form of the equation is y is equal to mx plus b. M is the slope, b is the y-intercept. We could also write that as a function. F of x is equal to mx plus b, which would be a linear function, m again being the slope and b is the y-intercept. This was part 1 of that section 2.4. Be on the lookout for the second part. Thank you.